So welcome to the last presentation of the day. This is the sixth presentation, and we're joined by Sanne from Impact Fusion, and she's dialing in from Mexico, which is why it's early in the morning for her, and it's late in the night for us in Karachi. Sanne she's the CEO of Impact Fusion. They support social enterprises enhancing their social and environmental impact. And she's presenting on Sindhri, which is the bankable and scalable tree plantation initiative in Pakistan. Sanne, I have your presentation, and I'll be running through it. And you have the next, you have a 30-minute slot. I think the presentation for 20 minutes, and then we can do Q&A after that for 10 minutes.
No
so
problem.
Over to you.
Thank you very much for your introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking all of you for taking the time to hear about all of these ventures being presented today. So my name is Sanne, and I have the pleasure to present to you a bankable and scalable tree planting initiative based in Pakistan, which is named Sindhri, Agro and Forestry. By means of a short introduction, wait, just I'm not really sure how I move the slides.
I'm controlling it, Sanne, so you just have to tell me to move to the next one and I can move it.
Okay, perfect. So let's move to the next one in this case. Okay. So Sindhri is a conservation initiative in the agroforestry sector, and their main goal is to help address some very pressing environmental challenges in Pakistan, such as deforestation, desertification, and climate change. And in addition to that, they aim to create quality jobs locally and provide food security. So just so we have an idea of where we are based, this project is located in Pakistan in the Indus Delta region, as you can see on the next slide in red. Now, what is good to know is that the Indus Delta region is a region which was called out by the WWF to be a specifically good area for conservation projects and development of forestry. So Mr. Nazir Bukhari, he recognized this potential, and with his passion for conservation and food security and a desire to support these local farmers, he founded Sindhri. And his mission is to plant 1 billion trees in Pakistan. So this is a great mission. I really applaud him for this. As you can see I'm not sure if you're on the next slide yet. I can't actually see.
The team.
For the team, yes, let's go to the management. So on this mission, so this is Mr. Nazir is right in the middle picture. But on this mission, he was joined by 2 other key members that will be helping to grow Sindhri into a great success story. This is Dr. Azmat Anwar, who brings in expertise on soil improvement and water systems, and Dr. Saeed Mahmood Nazir, I hope I pronounced this well, who is the former Inspector of General Forests. So he will be adding knowledge on Pakistan's ecosystems and climate change mitigation, and also on floodplain restoration, which is a great management team to have. They're very strong qualities. Then on the next slide, we can see a picture of some of the team members, because apart from a strong management team, they also thrive on a team of very well-trained staff that is familiar with local farming practices and sustainable agroforestry. And it might be interesting to note that many of the staff supported by the Sindhri project are women from marginalized Dalit Hindi origin. So that's actually really great how they're creating jobs for people who otherwise might not have jobs and are on equal pay. So in the next slide, we dive into a little bit of what is going on in Pakistan at the moment, because as you might have been aware, Pakistan is experiencing a huge population boom. Its population was estimated at around 216 million people about a year or 2 ago, and it's expected to double in the next 30 years. So this is a tremendous growth. So as you can see on the next slide, this population boom in combination with, well, already existing poverty and a lack of awareness in deforestation, etc. It causes really high rates of deforestation and desertification, and yeah, now you can see with an increased amount of unsustainable logging, over-harvesting of wood, and that in combination with already present natural hazards, pests and diseases, that actually not much forest is left in Pakistan, which is a devastating situation. So on the next slide, I've shown the number of trees that's only left. There's only about 4.5 million hectares of trees left. And actually, to be precise, Pakistan's forests are disappearing at the highest rate in the world, with an estimated rate of up to 0.5% per year. And yeah, this has some devastating effects. I've shown some on the next slide. Just in general, like deforestation just means an extinction of species, climate change, food insecurity, and even more poverty. So Mr. Nazir said, well, we can't really stop the population from growing at this rate, just like that. But what we can do is help reforest Pakistan. And with the same thoughts in mind, Pakistan's government launched a government initiative to plant billions of trees. This is a project named the 10 billion tree Tsunami. In this project, they restored 350 hectares of land, and it was claimed an environmental, economic, and social success. Well, you can see on the slide that the before and after pictures, which are just, well, it's a tremendous accomplishment. So on the let's go to the next slide, where I have presented a bit of a roadmap of Sindhri's initiative, which starts at this very clear opportunity that was shown through the 10 billion tree Tsunami. But yeah, not only the government but also private sector should engage in this further restoration of forests. Sindhri is building on to this opportunity and started preparing the land and nurseries with $2 million of pre-seed funding that was provided by the project sponsors. And another 4 million is estimated to be invested in the coming 6 years by these project sponsors. So as you can see on the timeline, they are raising another 60 million to start planting another 1.5 million trees on, well, over 3,000 acres of land. And yeah, hoping to have a very positive impact on both the environment and on people locally. So let's go to the next slide. So I've listed some of their main objectives. So their objectives are actually pretty straightforward. In terms of agroforestry, they are first of all wanting to promote sustainable agroforestry in wood and wood products to ensure a sustainable supply of timber and to reduce the pressure on the natural forest cover of the region. Then secondly, they want to promote sustainable agroforestry through non-wood products. So this is through a supply of fruit and nuts, and hereby to contribute to local food security. Then third of all, they try to mitigate the impacts of climate change in the Indus Delta ecoregion through carbon capture and storage. And last but not least, to create local economic and social value through the increased exports of these products, and to create quantity and quality job creation for marginalized communities locally. Now, I've shown on the next slide a little bit of how they came to these strategic goals, because Sindhri has called in a little bit of expertise from us at Impact Fusion to create like a standardized and commonly known measurement tools and metrics to define their impact strategy. We have helped them to set up some strategic goals through IRIS metrics. We've linked them to sustainable development goals and written up the 5 dimensions of impact for like the impact management project. I won't go into too much detail of this. I think when you're interested in this project, it would be great to sit together and go through these metrics, but there's quite a lot of information here. But yeah, in terms of sustainable development goals, which are most commonly known, they contribute mostly to number 8, decent work and economic growth, 13, climate action, and 15, life on land. On the next slide, I have listed, I've generally listed the 4 main strategic goals, which we just went through, but these are just more put into a jacket of commonly known impact tools. This is basically a bit of the same of a wood strategic goal, non-wood, climate, and community, as we've just gone through. So on the next slide, there is a big overview of the 5 dimensions of impact of the impact management project. I suggest we look at this together with those interested, but for now, it's just to basically show you the contribution that they have and that wouldn't have been there if this project weren't launched. And some of the risks also that come with the project, how much change they're making, how they're doing this, and for who they do this. But yeah, I suggest we look into this further and into more depth with those interested in this project. So for now, let's move on to the next slide to look at a bit of the benefit of planting all these trees. We are probably all aware that trees provide 2 of our life essentials, which are oxygen and food. But there are many other benefits to human life. So like medicine, the making of furniture and tools, building of houses, etc. In terms of conservation, however, trees can have tremendous positive impact on climate change mitigation, on biodiversity, and very important as well, flood prevention, to only name a few benefits. And to get a bit deeper into this climate change mitigation part, which has been high on people's agendas in terms of investments. On the next slide, I have listed a couple of things on what Sindhri's objectives are in terms of climate change mitigation. Obviously, trees help to sequestrate CO2 from the atmosphere, and Sindhri is well aware of this. They've made some pre-calculations of the estimated oxygen contributions and CO2 reductions. And whereas I don't want to go into too much detail on this right now, we are happy to share these predictions with you, might you be interested. We've just listed here on this slide some of the numbers, but yeah, detailed calculations are available upon request. So on the next slide, we're looking a little bit more into timber use globally. There's a very strong business case here to be recognized. Timber is not only used for logging, but also pulpwood to make paper, saw logs to create solid wood products, etc. And obviously, with the growth of the global population, the request for these products is only going to be growing. So on the next slide, I've listed those 3 drivers of timber use. Which is urbanization, so the population growth I've just mentioned. Decarbonizing economies. So there's the requirement to keep global warming under 2 degrees. And a lot of countries, EU countries, they're targeting a 40% reduction in emissions by 2030. And yes, timber is a natural and sustainable low carbon substitute product in building and baseload energy, and therefore we are expecting a huge growth in timber use and tree planting for wood and wood products. And there is a housing shortage. So in house building, there is a tremendous use of timber, and therefore is also predicted that the timber consumption will go up. So On the next slide, you can see a forecast of the Gresham House of global timber consumption, and you can see they estimated it to be about 170% over the next 30 years. Now, in Pakistan, the community has focused a lot on agricultural crops, and Sindhri has recognized that Pakistan has missed a bit on the tree planting and agroforestry business as a viable economic or business activity. And yeah, as you can see on this slide, there's an increased rise in timber use. So this is this is a slightly missed opportunity where Sindhri really has captured this opportunity and is an incredible business case here. On the next slide, I've spent a little bit of a few words on the fruit consumption, because Sindhri doesn't only plant wood trees but also non-wood trees. And as family income in Pakistan is growing, there is an expected rise in fruit demand as well. It seems like upper income groups consume well above average, whereas the low income population consumes less fruit. Like upper income groups consume well above average, and as the income is growing in Pakistan, they expect also an increase in fruit demand. So Sindhri harvests fruit and nuts, and not only exports those, but also wants to provide local food security at good sales rates. On the next slide, I wanted to show you a little bit of what Sindhri is actually doing with the money that they are raising. I have gone into the non-wood and wood sectors a bit. So this is where you see the diversification of their money. So so on the right side, you'll see the wood plants. So this is the planting of timber. They are planning with those 66 million to plant like over 600,000 trees. And on the other hand, on the left side, they're intending to plant 880,000 non-wood trees. I will get into more detail in the next couple of slides. So first, you can see some pictures of the hybrid teakwood tree, and they will be planted for furniture and fixture purposes. These trees are supposed to be harvested within the next 12 years. Sindhri does recognize that this turnover is quite a long time away from now. It's also one of the reasons why they diversified in planting non-wood trees, which you can see on the next slide. We've added some photos of the teak nurseries, which they are already working on. Nurseries are in progress. Trees are being planted at the moment. And then on the next slide, you see the 4 types of trees that they are planting, which are not wood trees, which are Anna apple, pecan nut, Californian almonds, and Californian pistachio. The first harvest of these trees are expected after the first year. Not of all of these, but all 4 species will reach maximum productivity after the 6th year of maturity. So this will provide a little bit of return on investment before those 12 years are passed from wood production. So as this presentation is nearly coming to an end, I'd like to move on to the last slide. It's just a brief overview of the financial side, on which I haven't gone into much depth, but I reckon that if you're interested in investing in a bankable agroforestry project, then we will share more detailed revenue analysis with you after this presentation. But just by means of general overview, 66 million is going into the machine. You see wood will be harvested after 12 years. Non-wood will start harvest after 1 year and maximum yield after 6 years. And after those 12 years, they are intending to have a revenue of 234 million, which is a pretty good business case there. As I said, upon request, we will share all the detailed revenue analysis. They've put some hard work into these, so we'll be happy to share those with you. And in the next slide, there is a little bit of an overview of of their key project terms. So this presentation is actually available as a pitch deck. So might you be interested? I can share this entire pitch deck with you, which is even a big, well, the actual pitch deck is a bit bigger than this. But here you can see the key project terms. The pre-seed funding is $6 million, which is provided by the project sponsors. 2 million has already been put in for that to start the project. 60 million is being raised at a face value of $1 per share. They have 60,000 shares available, and yeah, the risk-adjusted target returns are a bit higher than market rate returns, actually at 39%. And then it's quite interesting to know that this project is pretty scalable as well. After a second round of investment, they want to scale it up with another 20%. And honestly, as an outsider, I wouldn't be surprised if this project is going to be growing by a lot more. I've noticed that there's quite a few small-scale farmers in the region which are interested in scaling up their business and in providing their land for more tree planting. So yeah, a really interesting and bankable conservation project presented here for you. Yeah, the last slide basically is just mitigating climate change with agroforestry. I think, yeah, a great opportunity for investment. And yeah, thank you for holding on for this long. I know you've already done 7 business presentations. I hope this wasn't too boring. But yeah, I'm very happy to answer some questions in the next few minutes.
Thank you. This was very interesting, and especially the scale of it and the returns. And as you said, that it's a big focus area for Pakistan right now. A, it's necessary because of the deforestation which has been happening, and B, it has a massive social impact, and C, it has great financial returns. And what I thought was interesting was that the combination of wood with non-wood trees, which, as you said, that shortens the period of return for the project. So thank you for the presentation.